Good morning. As you can see by the slide, which I'm going to try to quickly move through, I'm Amanda Smith. I am Governor Herbert's Energy Advisor and also the Executive Director of the Department of Environmental Quality. And I just want to say first what a pleasure it is for me to be out in the Basin again. I was trying to remember, I think the last time that I was out here was probably last year when we had our hearing on Governor Herbert's 10-year energy initiative. So it's nice to be back, especially on such a beautiful autumn day. I also would like to say what a pleasure it is for me. I think I'm 4 years, maybe a little bit longer in state government, and it really is a pleasure to work for a governor who is a doer. And as you guys probably just gathered from his talk and working with him in the past, he really likes to see goals set and things accomplished. And it is great to work for such a person and to now have a plan in which to actually do that and implement things that make a difference in Utah. So today, I'm going to try and speed up my portion so that you can get on to other parts of the agenda. But I did want to talk a little bit about just basically the status of our resources, an update on the plan, how we're implementing it, and then I'm going to actually turn over time to the next speaker, Samantha Julian, to give you a more specific report on the Office of Energy Development. So just really quickly, economic outlook. This was produced by the Governor's Office of GOPB. And this just says consumption has increased across the board in 2010 after declining in 2009. This ties into what the governor just talked about, and that is that we're seeing our economy come back. We're coming slowly out of the recession. And crude oil production and electricity generation experience growth. And so we look at this, in a way that these things are pulling us out of the recession. Other things have slid a little bit, and we're taking a closer look at that. But early indications would show that we're on a slow and cautious path forward. As you can see again, we've had slight drops in natural gas and coal production, but an increase in crude oil and a slight increase in renewables. This is a slide that is in the energy plan, I believe, but also really highlights energy use in our state and our reliance on coal. But you'll also see how much natural gas, and you guys probably all know this, is starting to really take up a big sector in that and become more increasingly important. Few energy facts. Again, the governor said one of the things that makes Utah retain its economic competitiveness is that we have low energy prices. Natural gas in 2010 was $8.21 per 1,000 cubic feet, third lowest in the nation. And then as you can see, our average energy price for residential electric is also very low at 8.7 cents per kilowatt hour. And we believe that the key to maintaining our economic viability is maintaining our relative competitiveness regionally in that. So this will be a marker that we'll keep a close eye on as we move forward in determining and developing strategies. So just a glimpse on what energy means to Utah's economy, how many jobs it creates, total employees, 23,000 across the state, 1.9% of our workforce. It's a critical part of Utah's economic future. Again, energy is one of the governor's 4 cornerstones, and when we develop this plan as we go through and implementing it, we're really looking at these 4 cornerstones and how they work together because they all are cohesive and directly connected. The guiding principles, and I'm going quickly just to make up time and also because I think you've all heard parts of this before, but the guiding principles that we set forth in the plan were, first of all, that it should be driven by a free market, that we believe in all energy resources and they'll compete in the market, and that will minimize and mitigate impacts. As you might remember, when we went through and we had public participation and public input, there was a lot of concern about public health and the environment. And that led to this being moved up into the front into a guiding principle that all of the development will be looked at through that lens. Again, the document is a living, evolving document, and I'll echo what the governor said in inviting all of you who are in industry, who understand these markets and these issues better than we do in government, to be sure to communicate with us and help us guide and develop strategies as we go forward. Utility costs, we'll be looking at price stability and relative affordability again, and then energy independence. The plan had 7 specific recommendations: establish an energy office, develop plans to keep public lands open, which is something that the state's worked on continuously, enhance technology advancement, review the role of tax incentives, increase, kind of jettisoning through these, so I'll go forward, increase regulatory and licensing transparency, and reduce energy consumption statewide. The 7th one is diversify transportation fuels. And the 8th, and maybe the most critical in some ways, is make sure that right now we're laying the foundation for baseload growth in the state, which is really looking at what is our baseload now, going back to the slide a few ago where you could see what large percentage coal makes up, and looking at how are we going to set the stage for the next 10 years, the next 20 years, in terms of assuring that we have adequate baseload to meet needs. And that ties into our technology, enhancing our technology and building upon technology in terms of clean coal and other fuels, and also developing other baseload fuels. So the governor, as I've said, is a very hands-on person. We put this slide in just as a reminder that this year he spent an entire day in a field trip down to the Sufco mine, went 8 miles underground to see the longwall. Then we drove around and took a tour of the Huntington Power Plant to really get a grasp and an understanding of what this industry means and how it works. And we look forward to doing the same thing. I know the governor's been out here and visited Newfield, but he does very much like to get out in the field and understand how things work. So we'll be looking for those opportunities as well. So moving on, we've got the plan now. It's a working, developing document. And what we're working on now is really setting priorities and getting to work. This is just a quick list of who's on the task force that the governor mentioned. These are high-level people who have full-time careers that have really taken the time. This isn't a meeting where we're updating people, and I think one of our members, Al Walker, is here in the audience, and he can attest to this. But these are people who spend literally 3 hours at a meeting rolling up their sleeves and getting into the nuts and bolts of issues and strategies. And so this has been incredibly helpful and worked very well for us, and we plan to use them into the future. So again, just to go over the priorities and implementation: baseload, infrastructure, transmission, transportation, energy resource and technology development, and the research triangle. Renewable energy, one of the areas that we feel that Utah has a niche is perhaps in storage of renewable energies, both through potential underground storage and through technology. Air quality, as you heard the governor mention, and energy efficiency. So I want to spend a little bit more time on actual implementation of the plan. Again, as you saw, we have and I talked about, we have an active working task force that's helping oversee the strategies. And we've also set up what we're calling the Energy Coordinating Council, which is made up of these state agencies. We've had a suggestion recently to add UDOT and transportation. But this is a group of people, and it's at the executive director level, who are going to get together monthly or every 6 weeks to tackle issues that are affecting all, or touching upon these state agencies and impacting energy development or projects that are being developed. And for those of you who are trying to develop projects, this is an opportunity to get your project in front of the executive directors and sort of their ear to talk about, here is what we're trying to do, here are some of the roadblocks that we're finding with our federal land management partners or other issues, or roadblocks within state government. And it's not, I don't want to give it the wrong impression, it's not a streamlining of processes, but it is a place where we can problem solve together and we can come up with solutions that are integrated and hopefully create more certainty and also create a faster way through state processes, at least. Greater coordination with Public Service Commission. Again, this is an entity of state government which has a lot of authority and really weighs in on specific decisions, but has tended to be fairly disconnected from the planning and policy, for good reason in some cases. And then working across agency boundaries with GOED, USTAR, Office of Energy Development, and DOGM. And this is really trying to accomplish the goal of bringing agencies, again, together to make sure that we're talking to each other and that we're facilitating processes. So success to date, and you're going to hear a lot more about this, but in the last legislative session, one of the first things that we did to implement the Governor's Energy Initiative and Plan was to work on a piece of legislation that was carried by Representative Barras in the House and by Senator Van Tassel in the Senate, your senator. And that was House Bill 475, which created the Office of Energy Development. For those of you who've been around a while, you probably know that the Energy Office in state government has sort of come and gone throughout the years. There's been different iterations. Over the past 6 years prior to last session, we've had dispersed people in different agencies working on energy issues and an energy advisor who reports directly to the governor but is not connected to those staff people. And those staff people are not connected to the policy in the governor's office. So what House Bill 475 has done, and I think it's really going to be the one thing that makes a real difference in how successful we are, is it's joined those things together. So we actually moved the state energy program out of Department of Natural Resources. We brought in some people who were in another state agency, DFCM. We brought them together under one director, which is Samantha Julian, who reports to the energy advisor, which is the position I currently hold. And so that there's a direct line between what the governor wants to get done, the goals that he's set, and the people on the ground who are actually going to implement that work. So the office was created. We had an effective immediate date, which was very helpful. And I'm happy to report that it's set up, it's moved, it's consolidated, and we've actually hired some new people to work specifically on fossil fuels, and you'll hear more about that later. The other thing that is a success, and the governor touched on it, is the work that we're doing on the Uintah Basin Air Quality Initiative. And I'll be clear, it's not a success in that we've cleared hurdles and we're moving forward and we have certainty, but I would say it's a success in that we've continued to bring people to the table, we've continued and pushed the conversation, and we've come up with a cohesive plan for how we're going to look at the science and how we're going to work with the federal agencies to create interim strategies so that we can accomplish that goal. And it's a stepping stone, but we look forward to being able to continue to update you on that in the future. Energy Business Assistance. This is a program that where we're working to move towards having a process where if you're coming into the state to do business or expand your business, you can sit down with all of the different agencies that might be permitting you or have incentives or assistance in any way to kind of walk through again, not at the director level like the coordinating council, I want to differentiate them, but at the, where the rubber meets the road, where you need your permits and where you need specific guidance on how to move forward and learn what those timelines are. And then finally, I think it is a success in that for the state of Utah, we now have one voice for energy, that there's only one message and it's consistent with what you're hearing from the governor's office. I'm going to skip this slide. It's just more information on the Energy Coordinating Council. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Samantha Julian, the next speaker. Thank you.